to start by introducing Spencer Wanup. He's joining the webinar as well. Melanie is also part of this webinar series. Both of them are colleagues of mine. Spencer has got multiple years of experience in the firm as well as other accounting firms as well. He will be doing his best to answer any questions you might have in the chat. So if you do have questions as we go through, please enter them in the chat. Spencer's going to monitor that, answer them as best as he can. And if time permits, maybe we'll hit a few questions towards the end as well. So you can be prepared for that. So today's webinar series is, of course, webinar 1. It's removing yourself from the day-to-day work. That's what we're going to talk about today. And there's 2 other webinars, one on October 7th. It's about building systems and standard operating procedures, otherwise known as SOPs. And webinar 3 on October 28th, we're going to talk about profitability, compliance, and peace of mind. So a little bit about me. Some of you know me already, but for those of you that don't, I've been doing accounting for a long time, more than I'd like to say, because then I'll give you an idea of how old I am. But I was a partner in a different accounting firm in northwestern Alberta for about 14 years. And I am the founder of Crescendo Accounting, which I started October 1st of 2014. And of course, I started by myself, no clients. And today we've grown it to where it is today, and I've got 10 great team members. I've done other things in conjunction with my accounting career, everything from farming to owning a grocery store to owning a CNC machine shop and a textile company. So I got a pretty wide range of experiences in addition to accounting. So webinar 1. So here's the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the why. Why is it important to remove yourself from the day-to-day work? Then we're going to talk about the how. How do we do it? So we're going to talk a little bit about our 4-step delegation system, which includes changing your mindset and what to delegate. And close to the end, we're also going to talk about the difference between an organizational chart, which most people are familiar with, and an accountability chart. I think both are very important, and we're going to explain to you the differences and why it's important. All right. Why is my screen not advancing here? There we go. All right, so the why. So removing yourself from day-to-day. Why do we want to do that? Well, there's a lot of different reasons on why you want to remove yourself from the day-to-day work. The ability to grow the firm without adding more work for the partners. So we see it all the time, and it's not much different than accounting firms. Under the traditional structure. So under the traditional structure, you start adding more work, it only adds to the partners unless you start adding partners. But if you can remove yourself from the day-to-day work and you can get to the point where you can start to grow your firm and add more work without adding a partner or adding more time to yourself, that is the goal in removing yourself from day-to-day work. And of course, what goes hand in hand with that is the risk of burnout. You want to grow your firm, you're putting in 60 hours a week because you're trying to keep up. And eventually you say, well, either you burn out or you say, well, I got to add another partner. You can spend more time doing what you love. So that could be time spent with family. It can also be time doing what you love inside the firm. Maybe you don't like to do intake forms. I mean, you don't have to do intake forms if you can get the right processes, SOPs, and the right people that are accountable to do that job. Maybe you spend more time building relationship with the clients. More employee accountability and better retention. So we're going to go through this and explain what I mean by that. But essentially, employee accountability, if they're accountable and they're very clear on what their job title, what they're accountable for and what their processes are, all of a sudden they start to enjoy their work better, and therefore it leads to better retention. The last one I've got on the list here, there are others, but increase the value of the firm upon exit. I think most of us have heard this before. where we talk about increasing the best way to increase the value of a company, not just a firm, is to have it work without you. So if you can remove yourself from the day-to-day work, it increases the value of your firm. All right. So now the how. We've talked a little bit about the why. Let's talk a little bit about the how. So obviously the marketplace offers a lot of different solutions. It's really easy to get sidetracked. There's books, there's videos, there's all kinds of things. We believe that our system is the one that's going to move the needle. It's a practical system to help you quickly get work off your plate. So we're going to give you some practical examples. We're going to give you some templates to use on how to remove yourself from the day-to-day activities. If you want to, maybe you don't want to, and that's okay. But the point is you will have the choice to make. All right, so obviously the solution to working less is about solving a capacity problem. That's not rocket science. So there's 3 different ways you can do it. You can have fewer files, sure. That saves you some time. You don't have to work as long, but it also affects your bottom line. You're not going to make as much money. You're not going to be as profitable. It's not going to increase the value of your firm. You can have a larger team. Again, sure, it might reduce your work. I would argue that it doesn't under the traditional structure, because unless you're adding a partner, typically what happens is all of those people are reporting to you, and it adds to your time, and again, it negatively impacts your bottom line. We believe the third option is the best, and it's to delegate. And guess what? Chances are, you probably already know this, but chances are you're the bottleneck in your firm. Everything stops at you, and the only reason that you have trouble growing is because you're working way too many hours and it's taking too long to get things done. So delegating to the appropriate individual within your team is, in our opinion, the best way to solve this capacity problem. So what is delegation? The process of transferring the responsibility and accountability of work to another person. Notice I didn't say assigning a task. This is very different. You're not just assigning a task to someone. And of course, what goes hand in hand with this, which we'll talk about in webinar 2, is having really good, well-documented SOPs. But right now, we're going to focus on the process of transferring the responsibility and accountability of work to another person. Oh, Andrea, I'm going to ask you to mute if that's okay.
Yes, if I can see me. Can you mute me?
Yes, I can. There you go. All right. So the advantage of delegation, we've talked a lot about this already, but of course, to free up your time. Employer retention. So again, if the employees, I like to call them team members. I don't like to use the term employees, but under our structure, we call them team members. And if they feel value, employee, it's not just about salary anymore. So we again, most of us have heard about this. It's not just salary. Of course, you have to pay a competitive salary, but it's about making sure that your team members feel value. And the way for them to feel value is for them to be accountable to certain tasks. And so that's why you're delegating. And I can guarantee that your employee net promoter score will increase when you do this. Accountability. So it's who do you hold accountable for certain tasks? So again, I used the example a while ago of intake forms. If intake is not going the way you expect it to go, or there's some gaps in that process, you know who to go to. You know who's accountable for that. And the added bonus is new ideas. We've been doing this same structure in our firm, and I believe that accounting firms and law firms are very much aligned in terms of processes and structure. So we've been doing this structure in our firm for quite a while now. And one of the things that became of delegating is that all of a sudden our team members started getting new ideas. Maybe it's not, maybe you're not doing exactly the most efficient way. Maybe there's some people out there, once they're accountable for a certain task, they start to think of ways to do it better. And you'd be amazed at how much new ideas come from your team members once they're accountable for certain duties or certain tasks or roles and responsibilities. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the four-step delegation system. So this is a four-step. We're going to talk about step 1 and 2 today. Step 3 and 4, we're going to reserve that for webinar 2, which is on October 7th. So step 1 is going to be about changing your mindset, and step 2, what to delegate. You cannot delegate unless you change your mindset. I encourage all of you to read a book that's written by Dan Sullivan. The title of the book is Who, Not How. So this is a great book. Basically, it describes, it goes into a lot more detail on why it's important to delegate and not trying to determine how you're going to do a specific duty or task or responsibility, but who's going to do it. The second thing about changing your mindset is accepting imperfection. So I went through that as well. Sorry, I'm just admitting someone else here. So accepting imperfection means that maybe your team member is not going to do a task exactly the way you would do it. But guess what? If they can do it 80 to 85% right, that is going to save you a lot of time. And I was guilty of it when I first started as well. I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to do this myself because I didn't think anybody else could do it as good as me or as fast as me. But what it does is it creates bottlenecks, and I was the bottleneck. So you have to create good standard operating procedures, good SOPs. You have to have good training videos. Once you do that, you train your staff, you hold them accountable. You need to accept imperfection. The third thing is learn to step back. Let them figure it out. So don't take over. When somebody comes to you with a problem, don't take over. Let them figure it out. One of the things that I started to do that I had to learn from myself is now when I have a team member that has a problem that they come to me, which they don't do very often, I got a great team, I've got a great structure. But when they do come to me with a problem, I don't answer it directly. First, I ask them, what do you think the solution is? So if you get into that habit of training your staff to say, let me see what I think the solution is, because I know Gary's going to ask me anyways. So there's no point in going to ask him unless I've done a little bit of research and tried to figure it out for myself. And then I'll tell him if it's right or wrong. So learn to step back. So your team will be more engaged and supportive when you change your mindset. All right. Step number 2, what to delegate. Well, here's the 3 things that you should delegate. And I don't think I'm going to get too much argument on this. Anything you don't love to do. So if you don't like doing it, maybe you shouldn't be doing it, because chances are you're probably not doing a very good job of it. You're also not looking, you're just trying to get it done. You're probably procrastinating, getting it done at the last minute. So anything you don't love to do. Anything you're not great at, same thing, right? If you're not good at it, get somebody that is good at it to do that task. Anything that doesn't make you money. You guys are the partners, you should be generating the money. So if there's anything that doesn't make you a lot of money, maybe you can delegate that task. So here's just here's an exercise. You don't have to do this, of course. I mean, that's going to be your choice. But I encourage you to do this little exercise. And I'm going to give you a template to do this, by the way. But for the next 4 weeks, record every 15 to 30-minute intervals. I know you guys are probably doing it in your in Cosmolex or Clio, where you're recording your time. But I'm going to ask you to do this in a separate template. And basically, of course, I've got just some example tasks that you might do during your week. Maybe you're doing billable file work. Maybe you're creating invoices. Maybe you're doing new lead calls. whatever it is that you're doing, record it in the template for 4 weeks, 15 to 30-minute intervals. And here's the template. So here's all the tasks on the left-hand side that you're going to record. You're going to list them down. Once your 4 weeks is up, don't do anything else until your 4 weeks is up. Just list all your tasks. Once you're done that, you're going to go through these areas here. So enjoyment. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Or are you neutral? So it's a drop-down menu in the template. You select one of the three, and based on how you feel about that specific task. What skill set do you need? Do you need an experienced lawyer to do that skill, to do that task? Or maybe it's somebody that's fresh out of school, or maybe it's somebody that, depending on the task, maybe it's somebody that's just starting in a clerical role. It doesn't matter. If you don't need a lot of skill, click no. This, of course, is if you have good standard operating procedures. And if it's somewhat in between, then you select that one. Again, these are drop-down menus. Then you select how much money it represents to the firm. So, of course, client onboarding doesn't represent a lot of money yet. So you would say that it's just you've got $1, $2, or $3 signs. So again, drop-down menu. Once you've completed this task completed this for every task, this will pre-populate your delegation priority. So obviously, client onboarding here in this example, you hate doing it. It doesn't require a lot of skill if you've got proper training and SOPs, and it doesn't represent a lot of money for the firm. So this is a very high priority to delegate. So once you've determined what the high priorities are, start there. Start by delegating those tasks. And then you start to decide who's going to do those. So eventually, once you get into the process, and after webinar 2, you're going to understand about SOPs a little bit more. But essentially, you're going to want to delegate your high and medium tasks to certain individuals to free up your time to do what you love and probably generate a lot more money for the firm, a lot more profit, because you're probably going to be focused on developing relationships with clients, billable file work on the high-level file work, and just maintaining, growing the firm, focused on strategy. So here's the task delegation template that we can provide to you. There's a QR code if you want to use your phone for that. Basically, it brings you to our website, and it's a free download. Spencer's also going to post this into the chat. So once again, if you want to download, there's no cost to it. And you can start doing the exercise for the next 4 weeks and see. I think from our experience, from the law firms that we've worked with, some are shocked at how much time and some of the tasks they're actually doing. Unless you start putting it down in some sort of template where you can see this, you don't really notice it sometimes. So I encourage you to do the exercise. So obviously there's three types of tasks to delegate. One is admin tasks, client communications, document preparation, and financial administration. There's operations task, technology management, HR, compliance and risk management, process improvement. And then of course there's file work. And yes, even file work, a lot of file work can be delegated as well. Again, you guys know your business better than I do. You're the lawyers, but I believe with good standard operating procedures that you can also delegate a lot of the file work. So don't get into that trap that it's faster to do it myself, because it just creates bottlenecks. Okay, next is our organizational chart versus accountability chart. I think everybody here has heard of organizational chart, and this is quite typical. I mean, it can vary from one firm to the next for sure, but this is kind of your standard organizational chart. You've got the managing partner at the top, and basically it shows who everybody reports to. So it kind of has that organizational chart. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I think everybody knows about those. But just as importantly, I believe both of these charts are important. Sure, everybody needs to know who they report to, but an accountability chart starts to show what they're accountable for. So the managing partner is the visionary, for example. And of course, these are just examples. It doesn't have to be this way. Every firm can be different. The managing partner can be doing something totally different than what's on the screen. So just to give you a taste of what an accountability chart can look like. So the managing partner, he sets strategy, builds key client relationships, and drives growth. You've got firm administrator, you list what she's accountable for. Legal production team manages cases, ensures quality legal work, supervises production team. So you start to see how an organizational chart and accountability chart are two very, very different charts. But now you start to see why it's important to have both. And the clearer you can be on your accountability chart, the better off you are, the better it is for everyone. All right. So that leads us to what Crescendo can do for you. Like I say, we've been in accounting. I've been in accounting for many years, and so has my team. I've got a very great team that has a vast amount of experience, and we kind of specialize in working with law firms. And I'll give you a little bit of a case study here after this. But what we like to do, and it doesn't have to be done this way. I mean, if you come to us and say, we just want you to do our year ends, we'll just do the year ends. But what we like to encourage you to do is we will go in and do an analysis of your firm. And what we're looking for is your cash flow. How is your cash flow doing? I've seen firms do very well in terms of profit, but they're always struggling for cash flow. So we're going to review your cash flow and AR collections, including your retainer policy, if you have one. We're going to prepare the initial capacity planner. This is a template that we've created, and it determines your overall firm efficiency. If you're working 60 hours a week as a partner, and based on our capacity planner, we say you should be generating $500,000 more revenue than what you are. You're going to say, how's that possible? I know how it's possible. It's called delegation. We're going to assess operations, SOPs, and processes. We have a team member that has many years of experience working in a law firm that is going to come in as part of our team and assess those operations. We're going to assess your tech stack and processes to make sure that they're running efficiently. The last thing you want to do is having 4 different softwares that there's a change of address for a client and you have to go in and manually enter it in all 4 softwares. So how efficient is your tech stack and your processes? We're going to assess if you're up to date on all CRA filings. We're going to review and assess bookkeeping, payroll, and GST. Sometimes the partners don't know if the bookkeeping is well done, if it's up to date, if the filings are all up to date. So we will give you peace of mind there and review that. We're going to assess the Law Society reporting efficiency and if you're up to date. Yes, we do Law Society reporting as well. Your monthly reporting, we can do that for you. We can check to make sure that it's up to date. We're also going to assess your SEO ranking. And again, most of you probably know what this is, but basically this has to do with marketing. If I were to do a search for corporate lawyer Calgary, does your name show up on the first page? So again, we've got a great person that does marketing on our team that can help law firms if you're at that stage. So once we do this analysis, our team gets together and we prepare a document that recommends the priority next steps. What is going to be most efficient and what is the most urgent thing to do in your firm once we've done this assessment? So lots of things. These are just examples. Once we've determined what the priorities are, we can help to ensure compliance with Law Society and CRA. These are just some examples. One of the most common first steps is assistance in building systems and SOPs specific to your firm. So again, it's not the same for all law firms. It can vary, but essentially you want to be efficient and you want to make sure everybody's clear on their roles and responsibilities. So here's a little bit of a case study. This is an actual firm that we helped. This is a few years ago. So the little bit of details of the firm. It's is a firm in Calgary in the Northwest. They had 2 partners, 2 lawyers, 3 paralegals, 1 legal assistant, 1 administrator, and 1 contract bookkeeper. Their revenues at the time was $2 million. Using our capacity planner, we determined that they were way under capacity, but it didn't feel like it to them. The partners felt like they were putting way too many hours. They couldn't handle any more work. So both partners were working 55 to 60 hours per week. So we did our initial assessment. We determined what the priorities are. And after our analysis and starting to work with the clients, after 3 months, the partners were down to 50 hours per week with no reduction in revenues or bottom line. We did not add any employees to that. After 6 months, the partners were working 40 hours per week with a 10% increase in revenues and bottom line. And you might say, how did that happen? Well, it happened because they freed up their time by delegating some of the tasks that were not generating a lot of revenue so that they could focus on billable time and increasing that bottom line. And after 12 months, after 1 year, the partners were working 40 hours per week with a 25% increase in revenues and bottom line. So that's the power of delegation. This, of course, is just step 1, but this is the power of delegation. So we're going to continue following this case study in webinars 2 and 3 because we have been working with this firm for a number of years, and we'll let you know what the results are. Thank you very much. And Spencer, is there any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, I've got a question, Gary.
Sure.
Oh, excuse me. I have a colleague of mine who owns a real estate firm, and he's planning on merging with another firm fairly shortly. In part because of the issues that you've raised, where they found that they were running into capacity issues individually, and think that collectively they might be able to deal with that better. Have you assisted firms in transitions like that in the past, either mergers or partnerships, things of that nature?
I can't say I've assisted in terms of a law firm merger, but I'd have for myself for accounting firm mergers. So again, I find that it's very similar.
Okay.
And I don't see any issues. I think the key there is making sure that they agree on their operating procedures, have everything well documented. And of course, I don't have to speak legalese to lawyers, but making sure that your contract is solid.
Of course. Okay, perfect. I'll see if he can come to the next one, and hopefully he might have some more pointed questions for you on that issue. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks, Greg. I look forward to seeing you guys for webinar 2. We're going to get a little bit more in depth again on standard operating procedures and roles and procedures. Thank you very much. Have a great day.